How you all doing, everyone? Shine back with a very brief video. I actually just got out the shower and I'm actually about to go eat dinner with my family. But I told my wife I just wanted to hop on here just for a quick second, just to share something that I just felt like the Lord just kind of gave me an example. Um, I was looking at a video on this guy, Sid Roth, had a guest, Dr. Michael Brown, I believe his name is, and he was discussing false grace. And I'll admit, I really didn't like watch the whole video because like I said, I'm about to go eat dinner. But the video basically kind of starts off with him, him and Sid Roth saying how basically alluding to if you're saved, then there will be some sort of change in your life. Now, I didn't watch the full video, so I'm pretty sure that they probably understand that you can, mess up here and there. But if there's no, I guess, significant change in your life, then obviously the grace that you think you have is actually false grace. And, I just want to speak to that. And, we have to understand grace is us being pardoned when we should be punished. Okay, and there is no price that comes with grace. Christ paid the price that only he could pay. And all we have to bring is our belief. That is how we accept that gift through faith. It is a gift. And there is no to say you act a certain way to show that you're really saved. And I always like to reference 1 Corinthians 3, basically 10 through 15, where Paul says how once a man is on the foundation that no other man can lay, that being Christ, let every man decide how he will build thereon. So you will have some at the far end of the spectrum that is very on fire for the Lord, some on the opposite end of the spectrum who really never really leads a life of service for the Lord. And Paul says how, our works will be manifested. And those works that abide in the fire, we're going to get rewarded for. And those works that burn up, we're going to lose out on the reward. So, we had to understand the full scope of when Paul says, let every man decide how he will build on that foundation. And we just have to accept the reality that there are going to be different believers out here, different maturity levels of believers, and you will have believers that bring a lot of flammable works, so to speak. It doesn't mean that they're not saved. It just meant that, they were disobedient children, just like any of us can be. So the example that, I kind of felt led to give was just imagine, like if you have children and you say, okay, well, you're my children, and everyone who's my child is going to receive a car. All you have to do is accept it. And at that point, you say, okay, this is how I want you to use the car that I'm giving you. I want you to go to school. If you have an after school job, I want you to use it to go to that job. I want you to run errands. I want you to do productive things. And then you have your child that actually does do those things, not saying perfectly, but basically does those things. And then you have the child that uses that car for the opposite. They run and go to, I'll just say maybe wild parties. They go to buy drugs. They drink and drive. So you have the one child that uses the free car to do good things, and then you have the other child that uses that same free car to do bad things. Now that car is their car, and they didn't earn it. They just received it because they, are your child. Same thing with grace. You're going to have people who use grace for the right reason and other people who use grace for the wrong reason, but they still have it. And Paul lets it be known in 1 Corinthians 5 how, it is possible for people to be given up to Satan for the destruction of the flesh. That's what he told the Corinthians. He says, but so that the spirit in that day can be saved. And I believe that spirit he was referring to was, that soul. But, in any case, some people can use the grace of God to their own demise. Doesn't mean that they're not saved, doesn't mean that they don't have that grace. It just means that they're using it for the wrong reason. And God may allow that person to be taken out and called home earlier than they would have been. So I just want to just come on here and just say that, again, I am not advocating grace as a license to sin, but we have to be honest. And we have to understand there are different levels of maturity. And some people will use grace, some believers will use grace for the wrong reasons. That is very much a possibility. So just understand, don't let anyone tell you or try to scare you to say, well, if you're not living this very life of servitude, then obviously it means that you're not saved. As long as you believe, you're saved. Now, at that point, if you're not living a life of servitude, God may decide to call you home. You're going to have a lot of works that burn up. But in that same 1 Corinthians 3:10-15, in verse 15, Paul says that you are still saved. Even if you bring works that burn up, you're still saved. So just like in the analogy, you have obedient children and disobedient children who use that car, which represents grace. Some that will use it and multiply doing good things, and others will use it to do disobedient things. But that car is still theirs, not because they earned it, but because they are your children. Same thing with us in grace. Some people will use that grace to further God's kingdom and to give him glory, and others will be disobedient with it. And, God will chastise all those who are disobedient, but nonetheless, they are still his children. So I just want to get on here. I just felt led to give that example. So till next time, I love you all, and God bless.